and also increase graphics capabilities. The Fusion chips will be made using AMD's 45 nanometer production technology. Fusion-based processors are expected to be available in early 2009.
Just before we started the show, you spoke about this whole fusion. A separate graphic processor may well end up with all the whiz-bang and all the bells and whistles into a single chip, right?
Sure.
Now, are we missing a point here? Of course, the excitement of having absolutely amazing graphics is in many places. You already said high definition, movies come to mind, videos come to mind, animation and other such things which will be used. Back home as just normal consumers, gaming comes to mind.
Right.
Are we missing anything? Is there anything else in the big picture that all of this amazing power will finally be channelized towards?
Well, think of a very simple situation. How many people today who use Google are using Google Earth as an application? And how many of us find it challenging to download those satellite imageries onto our computer?
Okay.
It is slow, it is painful, and you would want some of that basic stuff to be done immediately, instantly. Now, on the other extreme are people who really want raw processing power in the graphics space. Now, these are the people who are doing, let's say, weather forecasting, or they're doing rendering of animation, making wonderful movies like Shrek and Monsters. And then you have various other applications like you just mentioned, like hardcore gamers, whether they're designing or they're playing. So you will continue to have two separate sets of people, one larger than the other, of course.
So you think it will exist at some level? It will continue to exist in the near future?
Absolutely.
For sure. The greatest euphoria now is for every company and any company to talk about going green. But how many of us really realize that this is some game or maybe even a negative, because the amount that the power consumption comes down by is completely negated by the amount of more processing, number of people, number of devices that are actually being bought and used. Will this ever equalize?
Well, I guess it would be crystal gazing if you can say that, but...
yeah, but this show is all about crystal gazing, isn't it? It's the next big thing, it is the future.
Well, I guess the next big thing in this domain is certainly making sure that the power that is being utilized by these processors is reduced to the minimum.
Okay.
Because essentially what's happening is that the energy is never getting lost. Energy is just changing forms.
Right.
So from electrical energy, which is getting consumed by the processor, is getting converted into heat energy.
Right.
And that heat energy needs to get dissipated. Otherwise, actually in real terms, what would happen is that the entire data center could melt down if it is not being cooled properly. It's so much of heat that is getting generated. So if we are able to even affect 10%, 20% benefit to the power utilization, whether it is in the processor or any other form, it would still contribute a lot.
Okay.
Because what you're doing is, the lesser the power you require to run your processors, the lesser heat that is getting generated, and hence the lesser amount of cooling required.
Okay.
And that again impacts, it has a ripple effect, a positive ripple effect on the amount of power bills that you have or the savings that you eventually accrue.
Okay.
Will it be a zero-sum game? Doesn't look like that it is going to be a zero-sum game in the near future, but there are several technologies which are getting very popular these days. And one of those that I'd like to highlight is virtualization.
Right. Okay.
In a more, let's say, data center oriented world, when you're talking about moving towards cloud computing, there will be more and more data centers which are coming up.
True.
Even India has got a lot of data centers which are now getting set up. So as the processing power goes back to the data center will also have to make sure that they are getting virtualized and making sure that every bit of processing power that is available
is utilized. To the absolute optimum. In fact, we've spoken about lots of things here, terminologies that some people may be unfamiliar with. So let's take a quick look at all of these. So what is virtualization? What's cloud computing? And even more interestingly, how are all of these things from AMD actually made? They're called fabs. We're going to go right into AMD factories to take a look at all of that. This is an absolute treat. Watch this.
This is the exclusive tour inside the labs producing future generations of AMD products. Fab 36 is AMD's 300mm manufacturing facility in Germany. This builds chips on silicon wafers measuring 300mm in diameter. This allows the company to cut more chips from a single wafer, reducing the manufacturing cost per chip. It uses the Automate Precision Manufacturing, a computer-controlled system that allows for dynamic real-time adjustments to the fabrication process. This system lets AMD collect data from its manufacturing tools at every step of the process. It authorizes a computer to make variations in the design of the chips as per changes in the conditions. Fab 36 houses the latest technologies and production equipment. It is also capable of producing chips measuring 65 nanometers.